योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि संगं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय संगं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय सिद्ध्यसिद्ध्यो समो भूत्वा सिद्ध्यसिद्ध्यो समो भूत्वा समत्वं योग उच्यते समत्वं. Okay. Anyone available to read the translation and purport?
I can read.
Please go ahead.
Perform your duty. Translation. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. Purport. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, and this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness, only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. One has to become the servant of Krishna or the servant of Krishna. This is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and as such, he is participating in the Varnashrama Dharma institution. It is said in the Vishnu Purana that in the Varnashrama Dharma, the whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. No one should satisfy himself, as is the rule in the material world, but one should satisfy Krishna. So, unless one satisfies Krishna, one cannot correctly observe the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Indirectly, Arjuna was advised to act as Krishna told him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you so much for reading. Okay. So Arjun was told previously that how he must do his duty. He has the right, like previous shloka, he has the right to perform his duty, but not entitled to the fruits of action. So do the duty, no, no entitlement to fruits. Never consider yourself the cause because there are multiple factors. So not just you who's causing the results of your activities. But that doesn't mean you don't have to work. You still have to work. So never be attached to not doing your duty. So you must work. But in what consciousness one should work? That is mentioned here. The consciousness during your work, you should be equipoised. Equipoised means your focus should be in executing the duty without attachment to the results, whether it's going to be success or failure. And if you do act in this ways, that is actually yoga. So Prabhupada is explaining that Arjun should act in yoga. Yoga means, what does it mean? It means to connect with the Lord. Means our results, we are offering it to the Lord. So it cannot happen when our senses are going here and there. So senses need to be controlled, mind need to be controlled. Then we can practice it. So how will the mind and senses be controlled? They are controlled by engaging them properly. If they are properly engaged in the service of the Supreme, then they are controlled. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord Krishna, which he will be revealing in subsequent chapters and shlokas. So Arjun should not focus on victory or gain, but simply act as a matter of duty in the consciousness of um, a yogi who is wanting to connect with the Supreme. So one can be a yogi and still continue to work and execute his duties in everyday life. But one has to give up the sense of proprietorship. Proprietor means that I am the owner, I am the enjoyer, it's my property, this is me. So one has to understand that everything belongs to us is actually belonging to Krishna, and we are simply the caretaker of it right now. So that is the way of discharging. And one can develop such mood when one thinks that one is actually servant of Krishna, and not just that, but one is servant of Krishna. So that is a very high consciousness. Generally in this world, nobody wants to be a servant. Everybody wants to be the master. Everybody wants to give orders and get it executed. But that does not give us happiness, satisfaction, and bliss. What gives is selfless service. So, those who haven't tried may not even know what is selfless service. But with the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita and with the association and guidance of those who are seriously advancing and progressing in this path, who are more experienced, we can see their example and can understand. And not just in the pure spiritual realm, but even many times we see even at material realm, people find more happiness and joy when they selflessly serve. There are so many philanthropic societies, there are so many big organizations. Some of them are by very highly rich people. Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, they have their Gates Foundation. Like that, there are so many where they're doing philanthropic charitable work. And we see even not just in Vedic tradition, but even outside of it, we see there are other organizations who are engaged in some sort of a philanthropic work. People like Mother Teresa and others, they were engaged in philanthropic work. And the idea is that when one acts selflessly in service, then one gets happiness. Now, if that is done with the teachings of Bhagavad Gita in mind, then that is highest actually. So that kind of a service gives us the highest bliss. So one can have that when one is in the mood of the servant, especially if one is connecting to the Supreme Lord. So servant of the servant, what does this mean? So let's say if there is somebody who is a family has many children, and then the father asks the oldest child to um, to help the father in certain way, and the oldest child is engaged in that way, and then the oldest child is teaching the younger children also that you do this obediently, and that way the younger children are also following the older child who is obedient to the father. Then the father is very pleased that my oldest child is doing, but then the younger one is also doing. So similarly, those who are experienced, advanced in spiritual life, they are very close to the Lord. And just like we know that Krishna says, Aham Bija Pradapita, I am the seed giving father for every living entity. So the others who are following those who are already spiritually advanced and we follow them, then that is very pleasing to Krishna. Similarly, we see many times there is a hierarchy, like in army, for example, there will be a general, or there'll be the field marshal, or there'll be somebody who's the higher up. Now that person is not going to go and give commands to every single, jawan or soldier. So there is a hierarchy set up where simply the soldiers obey what their senior has said. And that's it. They don't have the exact information of where we are going to go and attack the other party and how we are going to defeat them, but they just have a strict following of the orders of their senior, their immediate senior. And those who are their immediate senior have strict orders to follow from their senior. Like that, it goes on till the highest level. And that way, we see that armies, professional armies who are serving their country, they are ready to give their lives. The soldiers are ready to give their lives, but they are working so professionally because there is an orderliness of following the commands of the hierarchy. So similarly, Krishna also has formulated this system in which there is Guru Shishya Parampara. So one, Krishna will tell this, reveal more detail in subsequent chapters, and in the fourth chapter he'll say how we have to gain this knowledge. And the way to gain is to serve one's Guru, who is connecting one to the Lord. Lord Ramachandra, when he was serving his Guru, Guru Vashishta or Vishwamitra, he was simply acting as their servant. When Sandipani Muni was being served by Krishna, who's Krishna's Guru, Krishna was serving like their servant. So, this mood of selflessly serving pleases Krishna, and that is why he shows by his own example how that mood is there. So similarly, Arjun also is getting direct instructions from Krishna, so he should follow those instructions and advance in that way. It is said here that is the right way to discharge the duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. Now we take the example in the modern age. Like previously, we gave so many examples. We even gave the example of outside of spiritual circles, like army, like family. But let's take an example of within the spiritual circle in this day and age. In the last 100 years, if we see, Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder of ISKCON, his guru told him, you take this message of Bhagavad Gita to the English speaking world. And Prabhupada was at that time a young boy. He had very small children. He had family responsibilities. He conducted all of that. But always in the mind, he had that my Guru had told that I have to take this message of Bhagavad Gita and share it with the English speaking world. How am I going to do that? So he was preparing, he was writing, he was a Sanskrit scholar, even in the school and college. He studied Sanskrit. So he was good in Sanskrit, good in English, very intelligent, had his own business. He had established business, and he would read and write. He was doing a lot of writing, how to explain people who are in this day and age. So he was trying his best, and he was always meditating on the Supreme Lord by following the instructions of his Guru. And in that way, he was able to finally get a chance when he was almost 70 years. So for 45 years, because he was in his 20s when he got this instruction that he should spread this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and share it with the English speaking world. When he got this instruction, he was barely in his 20s, and now he's going to be 70. And at that time, uh, he was really wanting to go and give this message to other countries. He had no money, He didn't have any resources. This was in the 1965 when we didn't even have that much travel. It wasn't so easy. You were not having so much advancement that you can just communicate with the touch of a button or social media or cell phones or any of that. So Srila Prabhupada at that time took a cargo ship which took 30 days from going from India to the US. In US he didn't have any close contacts. Somehow or the other he was able to manage for a few days at one place, and thereafter he was just trying to figure out how I'm going to spend this moment. But because he has complete faith in the instructions of his guru, things started to open up. He got a chance. Krishna arranged everything for him, and within next 11 years he was able to open 108 temples and distribute hundreds and thousands of books. And if we see in the last 55 years, when Srila Prabhupada uh, first opened and continued, it's been actually almost now 60 years. In the last 60 years, um, his movement, Srila Prabhupada's movement, has grown so much. They have distributed more than 500 million copies of spiritual literatures, especially the Bhagavad Gita. They have distributed billions of plates of prasadam. They have actually been able to share these teachings of Bhagavad Gita to almost all the continents and all the parts of the world. There is hardly any country in which you will not find anyone following the teachings of Bhagavad Gita under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada through his books or through his devotees. So, like this, we see that because he had firm faith in his guru, he was acting in the mood of a servant of the servant. Krishna opened up everything for him. In fact, there is a section, there is an instance when Prabhupada came to an airport and a lot of people came to receive him. And so many people received, they bowed down to him. These were Americans and Westerners. They were bowing down with head down completely in front of Srila Prabhupada. So some people saw nearby who were not devotees. So they said, "Hey, you must be a very important person. So many people came to receive you. You may be a very important teacher or a guru." So Srila Prabhupada said at that time, "Actually, I am their humble servant. I am servant for everyone, each one of them." And that person was very impressed. He said, "Not only you are great, but you are so humble too." So, this is how the mood and the consciousness of a devotee is, that I am simply a servant, servant of the servant. And that is how Srila Prabhupada acted. And because of his mood uh, and his imbibing these teachings so nicely, he was able to transform the heart of hundreds and thousands of people when he was himself here. And even with his books, his teachings, even though he left, but he has um, left these teachings, and he is present through these books to all of us. And we see hundreds and millions of people are taking these and right now transforming their lives. Many of the people who were engaged in so many wrong activities, they were suicidal, depressed, intoxication, gambling, these were norms for them. They didn't know any other way of life. But just coming in touch with these devotees and these books, they have got transformed. They left all the bad habits, and right now they're very peaceful and happy. In fact, I'll share with you one instance. This was one person who was actually um, so severely affected by depression that he wanted to commit suicide, and he was admitted in a mental health unit for a few days till he recovers. And this person came out, and this person went I personally spoke to him when he was in the mental health unit because I'm in medical field. And then this person later on got in to an ashram where he stayed, and all his depression went. He became a very, very serious and sincere practitioner of the Bhagavad Gita. So we can see that spiritual life also has a role to play. If we neglect the spiritual life, that will be a big problem which we are creating for ourselves. So there are a lot of practical applications of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So I'll stop here. Anybody else would like to share any thoughts from this shloka? I've just
Okay.
summarized the first part of the purport and the translation. I'll share a few thoughts about the second paragraph, but before that, I'm just opening up to see if anybody has any reflections, any points to share.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please share.
Uh, uh, just based on your example, I just remember one as well that just happened a few days ago. We were visiting Radha Madhav temple, and there was this one American guy. He was sitting and chanting. So we were just sitting and chanting there as well, and he just came and started talking, and so I just asked him about like how come he got into this movement, and he just told us very similar story where he was alcoholic and how he was at the verge of dying, and he tried going into a different religious path, but then when he came into contact with the Hare Krishna movement, the chanting and the teachings of Prabhupada and Bhagavad Gita, how that saved him, and he's in the movement since the past 4 years, and how he was very thankful about the teachings, also the whole prasadam, how that helped nourish his body, and how the teachings is nourishing his soul. That just came to my mind while you were sharing an example. It's just random person we met and was very thankful to the whole Hare Krishna movement.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Thank you for sharing. Yes, we have had so many such um, examples which people have shared with us. I feel like sometimes maybe we should have a documentary or something on this because people are so much able to connect with videos and all of this. So I think maybe that is that will be coming. We do have already a few, but more and more may be needed. Okay. Okay, so I'll share now. In the last paragraph, Prabhupada here is saying about Arjun is a Kshatriya, and as such, he's participating in Varnashram Dharma Institute. It is said in the Vishnu. So basically, what is going on is Prabhupada is relating this shloka now to Arjuna's situation. So we know Arjun is Kshatriya, and Kshatriya has a very important duty to play in the Varnashrama Dharma. So what is Varnashrama Dharma? Varna means that we have four Varnas: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and four ashramas: Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. So this kind of a system which is followed is called as Varnashrama Dharma institution. So Prabhupada is quoting from other scriptures like the Vishnu Purana is saying that in Varnashrama Dharma, whole aim is to satisfy Vishnu. So the way it is constructed is so that by different varnas and ashramas, one can practice spiritual advancement, and the highest level of spiritual advancement is pleasure of God. If we do it to satisfy the Lord, that will bring the maximum satisfaction to us. Otherwise, we won't be satisfied. That is really what we are looking for. So unless Krishna correctly follows the process, so he has to follow his dharma of Kshatriya, and also has to see how he can please Krishna, and both of these things will be fulfilled if Arjun understands the need for fighting and executes it in a Krishna conscious manner. Okay, so those are some thoughts from this shloka. Anybody would like to add anything or share any points or bring up any discussion points? Okay, so there's a comment here in the chat box. I understand the importance of focusing on our duties, but how can we truly convince ourselves to act when our thoughts are in in constant conflict, held back by ego, past experiences, or unmet expectations from others? Okay, that's a very deep and important question, very relevant to our lives. Thank you for asking that, Swaraji. So, here the main point is, how can we truly convince ourselves to act when our thoughts are in constant conflict? So, that is the same situation as Arjun. Arjun's mind was very much in conflict. If we go through the first chapter again, we will realize that yes, Arjuna was in very similar situation that many of us, and that's why the Bhagavad Gita is most relevant for all of us. Because if Arjuna was not representing us there, then we may have felt, oh, okay, we don't need to read Bhagavad Gita or understand or apply or practice. And that is the reason Krishna gave the Bhagavad Gita in such a setting. Krishna could have given Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna and Krishna were just sitting in their palace and having a chat. Okay, by the way. But no, Krishna arranged it in such a way that it is spoken when the relevance is maximum and it will be relevant to everybody. Arjuna was going to go into a particular activity as his duty, but he got these conflicting thoughts. So here the question is, these conflicting thoughts, according to Swaraji, she's mentioning here that held back by ego, past experience, and unmet expectations. So all these three are important to handle and address. As we spiritually advance, all these will actually be taken care of. But we must understand that ego is false identification. Falsely, we are identifying ourselves with this body. That is the root cause. That is the ego. Why ego is there? This is the reason. Because we are identifying ourselves with the body and we are not getting self realized. Self realized means understanding that we are the Atma. Then you mentioned past experiences. Yes, past experiences can leave a very, very profound samskara, which is very hard to go. But there are processes which will actually help us overcome all of that. And then you mentioned unmet expectations from others. It is very easy to say, hey, don't have expectations. I don't have any expectations. It is very easy to say. But expectations automatically happen. Anything we do, we have expectations, and therefore one has to develop an attitude which Krishna is telling in the second chapter and in subsequent chapter, of keeping our priorities right. Our first priority should include spirituality. If spirituality is not there as a priority, then it will be very difficult for us to overcome these. But if we do have spirituality as a part, if we are keeping aside certain amount of time every day to practice the yoga which Krishna is recommending in the Bhagavad Gita, we will see that will actually help us advance, mature, and grow out of the situation in which we are. And then we'll be able to handle these conflicted thoughts. We'll be able to understand how the ego acts, and it will not bring us or pull us down. Our expectations will actually become optimum and appropriate, and our past experiences will actually not cause barrier but add to our current approach, because now we will also have spiritual experiences as we go through this journey, and those spiritual experiences will help us to advance appropriately. Does it answer your question, Swaraji? Anybody else would like to share anything? Okay, so we'll go to the next shloka, 49th. Please repeat. दूरे न हि अवरम कर्मा, दूरे न हि
दूरेहि अवरं कर्म
बुद्धि योगा धनंजया,
बुद्धियोगा धनञ्जय
बुद्धौ शरण अन्विच्छा, बुद्धौ
बुद्धं शरणम् अन्विष्य
कृपणा फलहेतवा, कृपणा.
कृपणा फलहेतव.
Anybody available for volunteering to read? Anybody? Any volunteers?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, please go ahead.
O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport. One who has actually come to understand one's constitutional position as an eternal servitor of the Lord gives up all engagements, seva working in Krishna consciousness. As already explained, Buddhi Yoga means transcendental loving service to the Lord. Such devotional service is the right course of action for the living entity. Only misers desire to enjoy the fruit of their own work just to be further entangled in the material bondage. Except for work in Krishna consciousness, all activities are abominable because they continuously bind the worker to the cycle of birth and death. One should therefore never desire to be the cause of work. Everything should be done in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of Krishna. Misers do not know how to utilize the assets of riches which they acquire by good fortune or by hard labor. One should spend all energies working in Krishna consciousness, and that will make one's life successful. Like misers, unfortunate persons do not enjoy their human energy in the service of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So what is Krishna saying here? He's saying keep dure nahi avaram karma. Dur rakho. Keep away all the avaram karma, abominable activities. So next line, Krishna is saying those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So Krishna was previously mentioning to Arjun that how he should fight without, or he should do his duty without being focused on the results, without thinking of success and failure. So don't think of success and failure, and if you're thinking of it, that is not being encouraged. He's saying you're thinking about the fruits. Oh, I'll be successful. So if you want to enjoy your fruits yourself, then you are miser, like in Hindi we say kanjoos. You're kanjoos. So what does it mean? It means that you have to go beyond this. You have to go beyond this to a higher level, and this whole section was discussing the same. In the last several verses or shlokas, we are discussing nishkam karma yoga. So in nishkam karma yoga, nish means opposite of, kam means desire. So to fulfill the desire, if somebody is doing work, that is sakam karma yoga. If somebody is doing without the desire of results, that is nishkam karma yoga. So Krishna is telling Arjun here, if you are thinking about enjoying, that is abominable. So keep these abominable activities distant from devotional service. Buddhi yoga, here it is saying Krishna. Buddhi yoga is translated as the activity or the activities which are done to connect with the Lord with intelligence. Buddhi. So in purport, Prabhupada is explaining, one has to actually come to understand one's constitutional position. What is one's position? We are simply part and parcel of the Lord, and we are part and parcel of the Lord. So we are best situated in our constitutional position when we are serving the Lord. If we are doing it selflessly, that will give us the maximum pleasure, enjoyment, ananda. And everybody is looking for pleasure, everybody is looking for happiness, everybody is looking for enjoyment. In the Brahma Sutras, it is said, Anandamayo Bhyasat. Even a small living entity like an ant or a cockroach or a bacteria, if you see they're going here and there, they're looking how I can get something to eat, something which will give me happiness, something which will give me some enjoyment. So, like this, every living entity is going here and there. Every action we are doing, somehow or the other, if that is a very important thing for us, we feel like that is going to give us some happiness. It will help us come out of some misery or distress, like that. So here in this particular situation, we have to first understand that one's constitutional position is to be the servant of the Lord, and then if we are engaged in service of the Lord, that will make us most happy. And if we are not doing that, and if we are engaged in thinking that something else is going to give us happiness, and in that manner we engage in activities, that is not actually going to give us the highest level of happiness. In fact, if I'm engaged in some service and I want results of that, then it will actually bind us with the cycle of birth and death. And binding from the cycle of the birth and death is not considered a very happy solution, because every time we take birth, we will have happiness and distress which will come in our life. Sometimes more happiness, sometimes more distress. But the spiritual life, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita gives us an option that we don't have to suffer like that. We can come out of it. And those who take that option, they are considered as broad minded people, Brahmanas. And those who are not taking that option, they are called as Kripanas. Kripana means conjuice. They are actually looking to get short term happiness, but they are sacrificing their long term benefit. So, one who spend the energy in working in Krishna consciousness, that person will actually be happy and successful. So, these are few thoughts I can share from this shloka. Anybody would like to ask any questions or share some reflections on this? Any points? Okay, so we'll go to next shloka. We'll do one more today, then we'll end. Please repeat. Buddhi yukto jahatiha. Buddhi yukto jahatiha. Ubhe sukrita dushkrite. Ubhe sukrita dushkrite. Tasmad yogaya yujyasva. Tasmad
Tasmad
yogaya
yogaya yujyasva.
yoga karma kaushalam. Yoga
Yoga
karma
karma
kaushalam.
sukaushalam.
Okay. Anybody available to read the translation of purport for this one? Who would like to volunteer?
I can read.
Yes, please.
Am I audible?
Uh, Seems like it is coming from a distance, the voice.
Now, am I audible? Or
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. It's not as
okay,
clear as usual, but I can hear.
okay. So I'll read. Translation. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad reactions, even in this life. Therefore, service fails. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all.
purport. Since time immemorial, each living entity has accumulated the various reactions of his good and bad mood. As such, he is continuously ignorant of his real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, which teaches one to surrender under Lord Sri Krishna in all respects and become liberated from the changed utilization of action and reaction, birth after death. Arjuna is therefore advised to act in Krishna consciousness, the purifying process of resultant action. Hari Om.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So here Krishna is saying man is engaged in devotional service. A man engaged in devotional service get rid of good and bad reactions. So previous shloka, Krishna was telling, dur rakho, dure nahi avaram karma. Keep these things aside, which are abominable. Here he is saying, how can you do that? By practicing yoga. What kind of a yoga? He's saying buddhi yoga or Krishna consciousness or devotional service. If he does that, then he does get rid of both good and bad reactions. They can be kicked away. So therefore yoga is the best, because whether good or whether bad, both will actually bind us and cause problems in future. Even good reactions, even though we say good and good is nice, but good doesn't mean best. So we want to do what is best and not just stay at good. So he's saying that everybody gets reactions, whether good work or bad work. What you don't get reactions for is the pure spiritual work. If you do pure spiritual, pure devotional service, then that has no good reactions or bad reactions. They are actually spiritual outcomes out of it, spiritual sukriti, and that is what will help us in our journey advancing towards the Supreme. So Prabhupada is mentioning here, as such, he is continuously ignorant of real constitutional position. One's ignorance can be removed by instructions from the Bhagavad Gita. So we get the instructions, ignorance goes away, we understand how to practice, and then we practice. So then we will actually learn from the Bhagavad Gita how to surrender to Lord. And when we surrender to the Lord, we take shelter of the Lord, then one doesn't get entangled in this cycle of karma and facing the reactions of karma. Because when we are facing the reactions of karma, we have to keep taking birth, stay in this cycle of birth and death. So Arjun is getting an option to learn from Krishna directly and understand how this science, which is completely pure, can help everyone to get out of the cycle of birth and death. Okay, so these are few thoughts from the shloka. Anybody would like to ask any questions or bring up any points of discussion? So this 51 we will do next time. It is going to need a little bit of a discussion. So we will leave it for next weekend. All right, thank you very much. We'll end here.